All right, man, peace. So, world famous music mogul Russell Simmons recently found himself caught up in the female harassment dragnet. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Very much. Def Jam producer Russell Simmons is stepping down from the companies he founded after a second allegation of sexual assault. Screenwriter Jenny Lumet accused Simmons of sexually violating her in 1991.
That wouldn't surprise me. She looks like his type. All right. She definitely looks like his type. Most of the people in his sphere, they like females that look like that. That's if they're not dealing with men or young boys. Because believe me when I tell you, Russell Simmons is a pansexual, all right, allegedly. Living here in New York, I've heard numerous stories about him dealing with both men and women. Okay, and this has been going on for years and years. Him, Puff Daddy, all those guys, Jay-Z, they're all pansexuals. They're all dealing with both males and females, allegedly. And I've heard numerous stories about all three of them. But I'm not surprised in the least when I heard this about Russell Simmons. And as we all know by now, this is the same guy who sent an email to Terry Crews telling him to move past getting harassed by that agent out there in Hollywood that grabbed his penis. So just for a man to send you an email like that shows you that, number one, Russell Simmons does the same thing. And number two, that he's most likely very, very good friends with Adam Bennett. And that is why he tried to communicate with Terry Crews and tell him to be quiet. And if you notice in the email, what did Russell Simmons say? He said it's all about love. Why is that? Because the god of love that they venerate is Bacchus. Okay? That's the god of love and orgies. That is the god that in the Christian church they constantly try to confuse with the Most High of the Bible when they tell you that God is love, as it tells you in 1 John, the 4th chapter. They try to use that verse to try to inject that bacchanalian spirit into the quote-unquote Christian church, which the Christian church goes back to the worship and the veneration of Bacchus anyway.
Her movies include The Mummy and Rachel Getting Married. Lumet is the daughter of director Sidney Lumet and the granddaughter of singer Lena Horne. And
when you pay attention, the so-called famous black woman has been dealing with the Caucasian man and procreating with them way, way back since the 20s. And I tell brothers this all the time. You always hear these black women come on the internet talking about as soon as a black man gets famous, he gets a white woman. Let me tell you something. For every famous black man in the entertainment industry, whether it be sports or Hollywood, for every one of them to go get a white woman, there's 10 of them that are still dealing with black women. It's actually the so-called black woman who has always, almost exclusively ran to the Caucasian man whenever she gets a little bit of fame, particularly the Caucasian Jewish man. Now, in the case of Lena Horne, for those of you who don't know, her father's actually a Caucasian man. So she's still classified as a quote unquote black woman, but she's not of the seed line of the so-called black man. So she's not really reckoned. Okay. But for conventional purposes, she is a so-called black woman. And as most black women in Hollywood do, they go and they procreate with the Caucasian man.
Anne-Marie Green is here with how these new claims affect Simmons' business empire. Anne-Marie, good morning.
It's not going to affect shit. He's going to do what all these other so-called moguls are doing. He's going to step down. He's going to have somebody else handle his business affairs. Then he's going to come back a year or so from now and just collect. That's all he's going to do.
Good morning. Well, although Simmons says his memory of the encounter with Jenny Lumet differed from hers, he also acknowledged her feelings of fear and intimidation are real. And he said he decided to give up control of his companies because he didn't want to be a distraction.
All that really means is I'm going to let somebody else babysit this company. I'm just going to sit back and go on a year vacation. These guys always say the same thing. My memory is different from hers. In other words, what he's saying is the bitch knew what time it was. She knew that when she got in my car, what we were going to do. She might not have liked it because I was old and she might not have found me attractive, but I didn't rape her. But right now with the quote unquote climate as it is, I'm just going to take the L and fall back for now.
Writing in The Hollywood Reporter, Jenny Lumet says Russell Simmons initially offered her a ride.
And you see, he has the Buddhist prayer beads on. Buddhism, and I've mentioned this before, is huge in the entertainment world. Not just in Hollywood, but also amongst many of these athletes. Many of these professional athletes are Buddhists and you just don't know it. Okay? Many of them are introduced to Buddhism by their Hollywood friends. Buddhism is one of the closer facsimiles to the ancient Babylonian mystery school system. If you want to know what the closest ones are, it's mostly many of the Eastern, or what they call the Oriental religions like Buddhism and Hinduism. They're very, very, very close facsimiles to the practices of the ancient Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system. Of course, Catholicism also has a very close kinship. All those religions are really just splinter groups from the original Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system. But Hinduism and Buddhism, they maintain a lot of the same rituals that were practiced from that time period. All right, the original Buddha is really just Nimrod. I'm talking about the original Buddha, not the later Buddha who emerged subsequent to that. And you'll also notice in Buddhism, what do they promote? They promote reincarnation. Okay? Once again, in the ancient world, that was known as metempsychosis. And then it became known as reincarnation. This is why I stated reincarnation was originally promoted in reference to Nimrod, or as he was known in Kemet as Osiris. This is why they say that Heru was Osiris reincarnated. All right? He had the spirit of Osiris in him. Okay? That's where that comes from. And you see it once again today, heavily, heavily promoted. That is a major tenet of Buddhism. That's why they venerate the Dalai Lama, by the way. When the Dalai Lama comes to America, notice he's feted. He's really, the Dalai Lama is pretty much second in command as far as spirituality on the world stage to only the Pope.
Ride home in his car, but instead he brought her to his New York City apartment and forced her to have sex. I felt dread and disorientation, she wrote. I wanted to go home. I said I wanted to go home.
Okay, so bitch, then why didn't you just go home then? What the fuck are you, E.T.? You gonna keep saying I want to go home? Then bitch, go home. The fuck? You didn't have legs? Like, come on, man. These broads kill me. And I've told every female this that I've ever known, particularly growing up, female family members. If you find yourself in a man's house by yourself, the only reason why you should be there is if you're prepared to give up your ass. If you ain't prepared to give up no ass, don't go to a man's house. Why are you going to a man's house and then trying to act quizzical in regards to what happened? Of course, you're frustrated by it because you didn't find him attractive. You pretty much thought that you were going to use him for your own benefit and for your own gain in the entertainment industry, and he took out his pound of flesh, and now 20 years later, you're still mad about it. That's all this is really about. Same thing with Harvey Weinstein. Now, Russell Simmons, you don't know what the hell he got, because this guy, like as I stated, he's a pansexual. All right, he deals with everything. He had a young boy that or what he likes to do is he likes to put young boys up in hotels as long as they service him. Okay? Quiet as kept. Allegedly. That's why when I made that video in regards to the boy who was killed by his father for being a homosexual, and they said that the father went over to his house, it was obvious to me that whoever the young boy was dealing with was putting him up in an apartment. That's what many of these older homosexuals like to do. They take little young boys and they give them an apartment to stay in. So Russell Simmons, he's all over the place. All right. And he's a major worshiper of the quote unquote Baphomet, or as he was known in the ancient world, Pan.
Matt Bellany is the Hollywood Reporter's editorial director.
This was clearly a traumatic and intimidating and harrowing experience for her. She was locked inside this car and didn't really have a choice about what happened to her.
Well, shit, every time you get inside of a car, you lock the door. Look, man, I have a hard time feeling sorry for a lot of these broads. Most of them are just upset that an old man made them give up the coochie. That's really all that this shit is mostly about.
Hours after Lumet went public with her accusations, Simmons' brand took a hit. HBO announced Simmons will not appear in the new series All Def Comedy and was removing his name from the show. As the co-founder of Def Jam Recordings, Simmons helped.
And that guy is nothing but a warlock. Rick Rubin. Shit, if you ever saw him in the making of Jay-Z's Black Album, that guy is a warlock. All he does is go through his spell book. Same thing with those clowns, the Beastie Boys, who people call rap legends. Those guys couldn't rap to save their fucking life. Nothing but a bunch of damn clowns. But, you know, they get promoted because they're Caucasian Jewish. All right? They were trying to find Caucasian rappers who they could make elite or the top level of rap for a very long time. Eminem was not the first. Anybody who goes back in hip-hop remembers the Beastie Boys and Third Base and things of that nature. They were trying over and over and over and over again. All right, it was just that they could not find somebody who really could abduct that form of music until they brought in Eminem. And in order to make Eminem truly the quote-unquote king of hip-hop, of course they had to first remove Biggie Smalls and Tupac out of the way, or at least those guys removed themselves because they were dysfunctional individuals. And then, of course, you had Jay-Z. But, you know, during the late 90s, you had Jay-Z and DMX, but they had a certain lane, and they snuck Eminem in there, and they validated him through Dr. Dre. Okay? And this is why they were able to bring over 50 Cent to give Eminem some more, quote-unquote, street credibility. But I say all that to say this. Eminem was not a new invention. You had Russell Simmons promoting the Beastie Boys way before that, and those guys couldn't rap for shit. Period.
Turned Public Enemy.
Public Enemy was a Discordian group. Okay? A lot of their songs were, you know, okay, but they were a Discordian group. They were. And this is why a lot of times you'll notice, if you pay attention, many of those groups from the late 80s, they used to like to wear all black. That's for the worship of Saturn. All right, Public Enemy and what's the other group that they love to glorify so much out on the West Coast? You know, the group with Ice Cube and them, and Eazy-E. N.W.A. N.W.A. Them dudes, they're the ones who set hip-hop on that kill a nigga, hate niggas, sell crack, sent them on that path. All right? So a lot of these groups that get venerated, maybe I'll start doing some videos in regards to that. No, I may. But look, I don't really follow hip-hop like that, brothers. I haven't followed hip-hop in probably, you know, since like 04, 05, around that area. Well, around 03, 04 was the last time I followed hip-hop. I don't listen to none of this dumb shit today. Like, brothers keep asking me about this song, I'm Not Racist, because at the end, it shows the black man and the white man hugging each other. Brothers, all that shit is hackney to me. I already knew that. I already know that's what the liberal black man wants. He just wants a fucking hug. All right? That's why I tell y'all that shit all the time. I tell y'all, this is a pro-truth channel. I tell y'all the truth. It's not a pro-black channel. I'm not here to complain about the so-called white man. If I do speak on them, I tell you the truth. I'm not here to talk about how, you know, they owe us this and they owe us that. No, the Caucasian man does not owe us anything. He conquered. He's in his rulership. Let him enjoy it. Okay, for the short period that it has lasted. This is why they lie on history and tell you that they've been ruling for the last 2,500 years or 2,300 years since Alexander the Greek or Alexander the Macedonian. I mean, they've only been ruling really for like the last 200 years or so. Okay, as far as in totality, across the world, they just haven't. But you know, just to get back to Russell Simmons, he's a pawn. He is a pansexual, and this woman talking about what he allegedly did to her, that's not the half of it. I know a chick from back in the day who wanted to get on in the hip-hop world. She was like a writer. She was trying to be a writer for a hip-hop magazine. She was in the elevator with Russell Simmons, and she told me this a couple years ago. All that guy did was hit on her. So I'm sure that's all he did to that girl, Jenny Lumet. So she should have known that if she got in the car with him, what he was going to try to do. People always talk about this victim shaming shit. No, it's just about awareness. If a man was walking in the street at 3 o'clock in the morning and he walked down a dark alley and he got mugged, when he went to report it to the cops, the first thing the cops would ask him is, why were you walking down that dark alley for? Because they would expect sense from a man. If you're a woman, you should not be going into a man's apartment or his house or his home by yourself. Okay? Period. Doesn't make sense unless you're there to give up some ass. What you think, you're gonna go there and play Scrabble? The fuck out of here, man.
The Beastie Boys.
I'm notorious, I'll crush you like a jelly bean.
And LL Cool J.
Now, you notice we haven't heard anything about LL harassing broads yet. Why is that? Because 99.9% of the bitches that laid down with LL, they found him attractive.
Into stars. His business empire now includes a yoga studio, energy drinks, a fashion label, and film and television production. Simmons appeared on CBS This Morning in July.
And I like to give people what I love. That's my entrepreneurial things.
I just like to give people what I love. I just love my entrepreneur, and I like to give them some dick, too. I just love to give them some dick, you know? Anybody here want some dick?
On Thursday, Simmons said, "While I have never been violent, I have been thoughtless and insensitive in some of my relationships over many decades, and I sincerely and humbly apologize."
Now I know why this nigga got that rush card. He's always in a rush to get some ass. Let me swipe my rush card. I want some pussy. Anybody got some? I gave my rush card.
Lumet says she came forward after Simmons denied forcing another woman to have sex with him. Model Carrie Clausen-Colegi said last week that Simmons forced her to perform oral sex, also in his apartment, when she was just 17.
Russell said, "I want you to try out for a new band. I just need you to put your mouth on the mic. That's all. You know, I just want to see if you can sing, you know. Just blow into the mic."
Simmons denies her allegations and says everything between them was consensual. Bianna?
Quite an emotional letter written by Lumet. Anne-Marie, thank you. Meantime,
But anyway, you know, this is only the beginning of the fallout with a lot of these guys. Once again, as I told you, brothers, you're going to see a lot of women come out against these people like Russell Simmons, but you won't hear anything about the young boys that Russell Simmons is putting up in hotels. And he's been doing that for decades now. Same thing with Puff Daddy and these other people. I mentioned this guy before. Remember the singer Houston from back in the day, maybe like 11, 12 years ago with the song I Like That? The man said he went to a industry party and Usher and Kanye West tried to sleep with him. And then he ran to the bathroom. He opened up the Bible and said, if thine eye offend thee, pluck it out. And the man poked out his own eye. All right. So this is what they don't want to talk about in Hollywood. Right now, they're in a stage where they're trying to socially engineer society to deify the woman and put her on a pedestal and make her out to be a perpetual victim. She's incapable of making decisions that will stop her from being put in a position where she can get adulterated or assaulted. And I'm not trying to diminish sexual assault at all. Okay, it's a very heinous thing when somebody grabs a woman and forces her to have sex with them. But many of these women are taking advantage of that notion by claiming that they have been sexually assaulted, when in reality, all they did was give up some pussy to try to get into an advantageous position in Hollywood or in the entertainment industry. And now they want to hop on a fucking bandwagon. All right? But anyway, peace.